Aging comes with many unforeseen changes, such as losing a lifelong partner and adapting to new living arrangements, like living alone, moving in with family, or into assisted living facilities where they likely know no one. With getting older comes the natural processes of decreased physical and cognitive functioning, which often accompany increased loneliness and social isolation. I chose this particular subdominant culture in American society for several reasons. I lived with and was significantly shaped by my maternal grandmother until she died when I was 10. My three other grandparents all died before I was born, and I've always missed the relationships I would have developed with that age group. And as my own mother ages, I want to understand and prepare for her challenges, resources, limitations, and needs as my responsibilities increase. The population of older adults has been growing exponentially, and 1 in 3 Americans is aged 50 or older. In fact, the growth rate in the number of individuals aged 65 and older has been incredible. In 1940, there were 9 million Americans 65 and above. And experts project that in 2040, there will be over 80 million. From 9 to 80 million, a ninefold increase. The U.S. Census Bureau is confident in its projection that by the year 2034, that is in 14 years, the number of adults aged 65 and older for the first time in history will outnumber the population of children in America. I find this statistic shocking and would never have imagined it possible for this population to grow in such a way. I'm curious if the elderly will become a more dominant, less marginalized population as they grow in numbers. And I'm also curious about how they will shape our future economy and policies. A friend of mine asked me to lead the singing of hymns at a local assisted care facility for 2 Sunday afternoon church services that a group of volunteers brings to the residents every week. I was thrilled to participate and enjoyed it so much that I took my small Bible study another week to experience volunteering. My favorite part of volunteering is gathering the residents and taking them downstairs to the room where we were meeting. They are finishing lunch when we arrive, and we go to their dining rooms, floor by floor, wheel them away, and wait for the one elevator to be available. It takes at least 30 minutes to do this, and I noticed the residents were not in a hurry to either get to church or be taken back to their rooms afterwards. I quickly realized that they look forward to this 5 to 10 minutes of one-on-one time they had with the volunteer who was helping them. That is where I could make intimate personal connections with residents, in line or in the elevator, just waiting. The first resident I met, Joanne, well, she and I connected right away, and we remembered each other's names when I went back a month later. When I asked about her daughter by name, she looked shocked that I remembered, and choking back tears, she said, "She's just great. Thank you for asking." I made a point to pick Joanne up and take her back to her room each time I was there, and the Sunday I did not lead singing, we sat together while I flipped the correct pages in the songbook for her. I also had the pleasure of interviewing Oma, who was born in 1926 in a German colony in Hungary. Oma means grandmother in German, and she is my friend's 94-year-old German immigrant mother who lives with her and her 3 adult children. We met for hours on Skype, of all things, of which she is a pro because several times a week she talks to family in Yugoslavia, Hungary, and Germany. A more grateful woman I have never met. When I asked about her health, which I knew had recently declined, she excitedly told me how happy she was with her new walker because it came with a tray and she could help unload the dishwasher again. She didn't like having to be taken care of, and although she cared for her mother until her death at 101, she continually looks for ways to be a blessing to her daughter and lighten her load. There has been much research on the detrimental effects isolation and loneliness can have both physically and mentally on older people. Risk factors that contribute to social isolation for the elderly include lack of transportation. Many elderly are not able to drive the vehicle they have, do not own a car, or feel physically too weak to take public transportation. Programs that provide transportation are proven to be most successful. A greater sense of loneliness is experienced by those 80 or over. Being female and living alone with no living children is also a risk factor, along with living in rented accommodations, receiving benefits as the primary source of income, and physical illness and frailty. Lack of communication skills through advanced technology is limiting many seniors whose get-togethers have now turned virtual due to COVID-19. Research shows that 60% of all individuals who have never used the internet are 65 and older. Now, I expected technological challenges from Oma at 94 years old and was absolutely stunned by her ability to navigate the virtual world online. Because she refuses to be isolated and lonely, she makes certain she can stay connected to loved ones wherever in the world they are, by any means possible. Her goal fulfillment in this one small thing encourages me in areas that feel overwhelmingly difficult. This project shed light on my own bias and assumptions of family tradition regarding multiple generations living together and caring for each other. That is normal to me, and it was quite a revelation when I realized just how ingrained and core that value is and how it has profoundly colored my worldview. I have had models for this my entire life. My grandmother cared for her mother, and my mother cared for hers in our home while I was young. Now I have the opportunity to care for my mother. I do not have children or anyone I would not feel like an imposition to, so my future will look different than the generations before me. I need to look outside my family to see wise planning and healthy senior living models, either alone or in retirement communities. Now, the research I found showed that only 35% of the elderly needing care actually live with their caregivers, and that 48% live in their own homes. I had expected fewer to be at home and many more to be reliant on others for their housing needs. This core belief and sense of familial responsibility will get me into trouble if I cannot be objective and judgment-free with clients. I watched a video that was interviewing two adult children in their 80s, and they had just put their 100-year-old mother into a care facility. They were so sad to have to take away her freedom because she had lived alone up to 6 months earlier. And when I noticed neither of them saying they had considered taking her in or wished they could have, I noticed judgment thoughts wanting to come. I wondered if those were automatic thoughts that other people had too. I need to be accepting and unconditional because it is okay if a child does not want to take their parent in. Since my first semester at Antioch, I have been a member of the American Counseling Association, and I have benefited greatly from their offerings. I have joined AADA's membership, the Association of Adult Development and Aging, an ACA division that focuses on equity, advocacy, and activism across the lifespan. I've agreed to manage their website, and that position affords me a place on their board. Because of this project, I have become very familiar with seniors' offerings through the Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, or DEMAS as it is called. One of their programs is their Senior Outreach and Engagement Program, which provides assessment and case management services to at-risk older adults, that's 55 and older, by utilizing proactive approaches to identify, engage, and refer seniors for various individually tailored community treatment options. Services include education, support, counseling, including in-home counseling, referrals to senior service networks, and referrals for treatment. The program goals are to provide the services in a person-centered, strengths-based, culturally sensitive manner that reduces substance misuse, stabilizes behavioral health symptoms, and improves their quality of life while assisting the older adult with remaining integrated into the community in the least restrictive setting possible. I began my practicum and then internship in the summer of 21, and I plan to contact Demas and see if there's a fit for me there. I'm also excited about a practice in town that works exclusively with geriatrics and in finding out more about what their mission and vision are. When I talked with Oma, she shared a story that happened when she was a 16-year-old girl in 1942, 78 years ago. Her mother had become seriously ill with cancer, and she believed it was her fault because she was angry with God for what she saw the Germans do to the Jews in her village. Still convinced that God was punishing her, she told me with tears that it wasn't until about 8 years ago that she could even tell anybody that story. It was clear that she still carries deep guilt and responsibility for that. If she is still haunted after 78 years, I sometimes wonder if there is hope in healing. Observing this in her made me question an incident that I know I have not dealt with. I've been telling myself that it was so long ago that surely everything must have worked itself out on its own over the last 38 years. But time, I have learned, is not the healer. Doing the work is what heals. And like an infected splinter, the underlying issue must be drawn out to get better. Inspired by Oma's determination to connect with others, I began seeing a new therapist about a month ago to discuss this very thing. I thought for a minute about the year projected that the elderly population will overtake the number of American children, 2034. And for the first time with this assignment and project, I added a quick 14 years to my current age. Shockingly, I realized that I will be 62 in 2034. It's my high school classmates and I that will be the they pushing the older population higher than that of American children, and I will be involved in shaping our economic future and policies, and those age 65 and older will actually be my peers and me. While the thought of aging has never bothered me, and I can see myself healthy and happy in my 60s, before this project, I had never really considered how individuals transition into the more marginalized population of older adults, regardless of their previous privilege status. So far, getting older has always meant more privileges, more opportunities, and more open doors. Losing pieces of that as a part of aging is one thing this project has brought to my attention. Now, to plan for my best older years, I can advocate now for the rights and fair treatment for the aging in America. Professionally, I can conduct research that focuses on the elderly's perspective, which is remarkably lacking in the literature. I want to do more than just observe. I want to know, I want to understand, and I want to make their lives better.